film sucks. Indie film sucks. It's the Indie Film Sucks podcast. Yeah.
Coming at you from the mean streets of St. Louis, from a basement on South Broadway, the Indie Film Sucks podcast. Because indie film it's a terrible thing, really.
Sucks today, sucks tomorrow, sucks always.
Yes. Sucked yesterday, too.
Yeah, yes, exactly.
Oh, hi, I'm Chris Grega, writer, director, whatever. 88mm Productions.
Chris Mackey, actor, producer, 88mm Productions, and we have a guest here, Grega, who's sitting with us.
Paul Hibbard.
Paul Hibbard. How are you, Paul?
Great. How are you guys doing?
Good. Thanks for joining us, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, before we get into anything else, I'm going to ask you the infamous question that you've been waiting for. What's your suck?
I think if I had to pick a suck, it would be trying to make film in a society where content is more king than film is. And so a lot of times I'll meet people and they are just more driven by content, getting things out, filling up a resume, filling up a reel. And this causes, I think, several issues. One, I think it causes the issue of their schedule. They're just insanely busy. Mm-hmm. Like I'll meet with people and they'll say, cast, crew, producers, anyone, and they'll say, I can't because I have 10 films that I'm making in May. And I'm like, what are these movies? I was like, I watch more movies than anyone I know.
We're making one movie every 3 years.
Yeah, barely.
I heard of these movies. But then also, I think a lot of times, when it comes to creating content, that can include anything. It can include even commercials, and it's hard to get people, I think, focused on this passion for film that I know that I have and other filmmakers have. But on the plus side is when you get an actor or you get a crew member, somebody who is driven by film, then it becomes this magical experience where you're making it and you both love what you're doing. Yeah, I think that would be my suck, is trying to make films in a content creation world.
No, and when you do get that magic, it comes across in your project, right? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I definitely I agree with that. Yeah, whenever I make a film, having people on there who actually have the passion for film, to me, it really means a lot, because there are times where I'll be working as a director and I'm directing someone or talking to a crew member, and sometimes I'll get I'll get tied up on what I'm trying to do. I'm not saying the right words. I'm not directing them correctly. And then I'll just be like, hey, you remember this movie where this guy did this, this director did this, and he got this reaction? That's what I'm trying to do here. And then if they know film and they love film, they're like, okay, we're going to help you get that. And a lot of times I think when you work with people who are just there to be on sets or there to create content, it's a different language when you're trying to make something, I think, with passion.
Well, I've talked about something along those lines before. So I come from a school, and Mackie comes from a school where when you start out making movies, mm-hmm. you're doing it for free, right? Mm-hmm. No one's getting paid. You're just making movies because you love making movies.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. Now, granted, the idea is, eventually everyone is making money, and this is your full-time job, right? Mm-hmm. Because let's make no mistake, it's called show business for a reason, because it's a business. Even at our low bargain basement, shitty, terrible, have no resources level, it's still a business. But I've run into some controversy with people who have said if everyone's not getting paid from the very first time you make a movie, then you're ripping people off. You're taking advantage of people. I'm like, mm-hmm. No, mm-hmm. I don't think so. Now, I'm talking about when you very first start out. The first time you pick up a camcorder and you and your buddies decide, hey, let's make an Indiana Jones kind of movie. Is everyone supposed to be getting paid for that?
Right, yeah.
No, because you're figuring out what the hell you're doing. Uh-huh. And the reason we came up with Indie Film Sucks is it's kind of like the Peace Corps, mm-hmm. right? You remember the old, the motto of the Peace Corps, mm-hmm. the toughest job you'll ever love?
Yeah.
Because it really sucks in almost every aspect of making movies.
Yeah.
Like the pre-production aspects of that suck, production aspects of that suck, post-production sucks, and then trying to sell your film really sucks.
Really sucks, yeah.
So you have to really love what you're doing in order to get through all that suck, which is what I say a lot of times. Like 95% of filmmaking is utter dog shit.
Yeah.
But that other 5% is so awesome that it makes it all worth it.
Yeah, and I can tell, because I deal with a lot of bullshit here, and I can tell when I really love a project, because there's been other I haven't made anything in 3 years,
Okay.
and besides, when I directed Some Visitors, which was the spring of 2021, and there's other things that I would create and scripts I would write, things I get in pre-production, and then I would deal with the bullshit, and I'd be like, I don't care about this film enough to deal with this. So I usually know if I really am sold on something if I tread through the bullshit to get it made. Yeah,
because you're not going to have passion for, as you've said, the ubiquitous Dobbs commercial.
Yeah.
Right? It's just a gig.
Yeah.
It's just a job.
Yeah.
Just like I shoot legal video. I'm not passionate about legal video. It's a job, man.
And what I was saying, things about content is things that I've dealt with are people will tell you how much they get paid making the Dobbs commercials, or they'll tell you how much they get paid on their day jobs, and either how much of a cut they're taking to do this. And I always want to be like, is that what you wanted to do? Like when you were in film school and you watched Touch of Evil that first time, you saw that opening 20-minute shot where you're like, I can't wait to sell tire commercials. Like somewhere inside there has to be a part of you that still loves film. And I feel that, in kind of like this sort of a gig society that we live in where everybody wants to get paid for everything and pay for their time, there has to be that love that you have for film still, that you will do certain projects for either, a reduced pay or something for free because it hits on what you love. It might not be my project. Like you might read mine and say, this is I want to get paid for the Dobbs commercial the same rate I get this, but there has to be something there that you love that connects you to what you were doing. And on times where I've had some people who give me reduced pay,
Reduced rates.
Reduced rates. What they will do is sometimes point it out often, like to point out how much less I'm paying. Some of them try to take creative control of things, and they're just hey, I could be making $600 a day doing this, or
then do that.
Yeah, do that.
Right. Then don't take the gig.
Yeah.
I mean, I've told you what the gig was up front. Don't take it if you don't want to do it.
So I don't know. That's just some of the nightmares. I don't mean to necessarily say it as a systematic thing to everybody in the city, because there are some great people in the city too, but that is a hurdle that I have hit.
No, but it's being honest, and that's what this show's about.
Yeah.
It's just being honest, and it happens.
Mm-hmm.
We all deal with it, and we've all dealt with it. So do you do this full time?
I do not. Well, I do freelance work, and I'll do editing jobs here and there.
Okay,
but,
so you're working in the industry, quotation marks, right?
Yeah, quotation marks, yeah. I actually just got into that recently. I worked, and this is something I like to point out to people whenever they tell me if I'm lowballing them with rates. For 15 years, up until about a year ago, for 15 years, I worked for the city of St. Louis, and I worked 911. And so I would, my whole film career, I would do films at night and do
Dispatch?
Dispatch, yeah.
Noble, that's noble.
Yeah.
That's tough out now, seriously.
And I would talk to people who have died. I've talked to several people on the phone who've died, and it's a very hard and it's a very stressful job. And people would oftentimes call me a hero, because I think sometimes in America they call you a hero so they don't have to pay you much. So they would
the supplemental pay.
Yeah. And my favorite thing is when people call me a hero, but then I offer somebody to come shoot a movie, and I'll offer them twice what I make a day being a hero, and they call that insulting. That is my favorite.
Wow.
That's my favorite.
Wow. You love having that in your back pocket, don't you?
I love pointing out. But I quit that about a year ago and started getting into freelance work, and it's going.
Okay, so you're taking your passion, what you always wanted to do, you paid the bills, right? 911,
yeah.
At least you got into something that I think is noble anyway.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And then hero, whatever, however you guys want to describe it. I think there's a lot of heroes in this: military, policemen, firefighters, and it all stems to 911, right? Somebody's got to dispatch when we get them there. how'd you get started in it though? I looked at your IMDb, I looked at all that stuff, and I saw you had a limited kind of number of things on there. So how long you been doing it? Talk about your early projects, and I know you got a new project maybe you want to talk about.
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
So I've been making movies for about 30 years. It all started...
Wait, 30?
Yeah.
What are you, like 37? You look young.
About 25 years.
Okay.
Yeah. So I actually turned 45 in 2 weeks. So for about
Damn, happy birthday. That's what I have to say, man. It looks good.
For about 25 years, I've been off and on doing some sort of like filmmaking. I started when I was a teenager.
Okay.
More than that, it was just like my love for film. I knew I really loved film when I was a kid, and I didn't know how it was going to come to fruition. And it kind of came out in sort of like a shotgun approach. When I was a teenager, I was making stupid little videos, but I was also writing like film reviews. When I was a kid, I really wanted to be probably Roger Ebert more than anyone else. Oh. And I was like reading his reviews, and I was writing criticism. And when I got into my 20s, I kind of just did both. I pursued the filmmaking route, but I was also pursuing the film criticism route. And I made my first movie when I was... My first film that I would think you would actually call a film and not just screwing around as a teenager. We never put it out, but we did play it locally at a couple places. And that was this stupid horror film called Deranged Basement Thing. And I just wanted to make this really dumb... I wanted to make a really dumb horror movie with stupid characters. Like characters that you would see in like a Coen Brothers movie.
Okay.
Who were in a horror movie, but they were too stupid to realize what was happening. So they went to this like haunted house where there was this thing in the basement called the Deranged Basement Thing that was killing them. And as they were dying, they just could not put it together what was happening. They were so stupid. They were having the dumbest, most banal conversations. And one by one, they all just died and none of them realized what was going on. But the audience realized because they saw it in the background. So I made that. I made a couple other horror movies in my 20s. And then in my late 20s, it's the first film that I actually sent out to like festivals that played at a few festivals. It was the first one that played here at the Showcase in St. Louis, and that was called The Proposal.
I think I remember that. What year was that?
That was 2010, I think. I think it was 2010.
I might have had something in the festival that year. I don't remember, but yeah, that...
It was. I'll just say what it is. I mean, it was a movie where a woman gives someone a blowjob. I don't know if that was anything. It was this movie that like I was a big fan. This is probably I'm on the verge of sounding kind of pretentious about this, but I was a big Buñuel fan when I was younger.
Okay.
And Buñuel used to do these movies that I loved, where he would show like heightened versions of bad situations. So he would show like heightened versions of like rich people taking advantage of others, and he would show heightened versions of bad relationships, and it would just be so just exaggerated, so like intentionally over the top. But it was done in this like knowing way, and I remember watching his movies in my 20s and just really like loving how somebody could bend the versions of reality and make films where it was like a movie that was maybe 70% reality, 30% satire, and how it was a movie that it wasn't like full Dr. Strangelove, but it also wasn't full just drama. And I made a movie called The Proposal, where a guy was proposing to a woman, and while he proposed, she started telling him about all of the affairs that she's had, and he won't listen. He keeps making excuses. It was supposed to be this whole thing about how people just ignore red flags before they get married, and then within this ignoring red flags, she literally sits the waiter down and gives a blowjob in front, and he still like immediately forgives her. And it was the first movie I was just like, I feel like I kind of nailed it with this one, and that one we sent it off to film festivals, and that was the first time that it played here at the Showcase, and it was the first one that
the short.
It was a short, about 15 minutes long. Yeah. And it was the first. They played at a few other festivals around the country. Then after that,
did that validate anything for you from coming out of that? And then so you had this other one, right? That you were like, I'm not showing anybody. And then all of a sudden you did this.
Yeah.
Did that validate anything for you, or give you kind of some sense of I kind of know what I'm doing here, and the audience got it, or
Yeah, no, it did. It also validated because I'm pretty hard on myself, and it was the one that I was like, oh, it came out looking like what was in my head. Even like those things like, the stupid Strange Basement thing. I was so young when I was doing that stuff. When it came out, I was like, oh, this isn't really that funny, because it was so much funnier in my head. And why isn't that funny? And so when I did the proposal, I was like, oh, wow, this actually looks like how it looks like in my head. That's always been like a big discussion that I've had. I was like, with bad directors, do bad directors just have bad visions? Like, do they just not understand what a good movie is? Or do they have a good vision and they can't get it out correctly? And, that was always like a question that I had, but also a question I had to myself. I was like, are these visions good, or am I just having problems getting it out? And that was the one that came out and I was happy with.
It's not always easy to make that transition,
Yeah.
right? From your head to the page and then to the screen.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes something gets lost between what you're thinking and the page. Mm-hmm. And then sometimes something gets lost between the page and the screen.
Yeah.
So I would say out of all the stuff I've done, which it's a fair amount of movies, features, shorts, and whatever, maybe half of the things, I'm not saying things are bad, but maybe half the films I've made have actually, like, oh, that's exactly what I was thinking. Mm-hmm. A lot of times it's been, it's close. Like, it's not really close at all. But like our last film, Red Night at Skies, that actually, everything that I visualized came out how I pictured it. And that's pretty cool when that happens.
Yeah, it is cool. Have you ever had anything that doesn't come out but actually comes out better through a happenstance, or someone nailing it, doing something else and running with it?
Yeah, probably the film we did before that, 35 Days.
Okay.
yeah. No, if you're talking about Travis's performance and some of the performances in there, I don't know. I thought. I mean, I don't know. I wasn't in your head.
True.
But I saw how that one was shot because I was on set a few days and how quick that had to happen.
Yeah, it did.
And how magical that ended up.
So anyone who's ever worked in film or any of the creative arts would really understand where this movie was coming from, and it's still probably my favorite film.
That's awesome. Sounds most personal.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And getting back to what you were saying about the script versus, and did it validate you?
Yeah.
I always look at it as an evolutionary process.
Yeah.
Most of us write, direct, right? all of our own stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But imagine, you take a script from somebody else to a director who has to answer to producers, who has to portray it to the actor, who has to put it on the film in order to get it to the editor. Everybody's got their... So it's almost a miracle that it does come out with something special because of all the hands that have to touch it. If you look at all these projects, there's some really good movies out there in the world that you got to think about that evolutionary process of who held it together and how did they get that from somebody.
Right, yeah.
And it's neat when somebody like you says, that's the first time
actually
that I
nailed
went, and it got you to the next one, right? I'm sure it did.
Yeah, it did. The way that films oftentimes get to where you want them to be is finding people who care about it as much as you do, but also people who have the time to like really like invest in it. And I'll talk to a lot of actors, and I swear it's like a brag. Like they're bragging about how many movies they got lined up. But when you watch a movie at the theater, sometimes those actors, like that film is all they did for 3 months, including preparation and everything. So they have that like, and they have luxuries, like they're obviously paid a lot more and they can afford to necessarily do it. But I think of that too, about how like preparation and everybody being equally prepared is how that vision comes true. But sometimes back to this content world, it's just like, well, all I have is like these 3 days and you'll get me no rehearsals. And it's just like, okay, well, you're already starting, in last place by just, giving that. So.
Right, and you're putting undue pressure on everybody else in the cast, the director and stuff. And that's, on this film specifically, we said as producers, we got to take the most pressure off of Chris Grega because for far too long has he been wearing...
For Red Night.
For Red Night, yes. That we had to take the pressure off of him because for far too long he's been wearing too many hats and having to be pulled in different directions. And I thought it made a difference.
It did. I'm sure you understand that, having to be the writer, director, editor. Head cook and bottle washer, grip, AC, whatever.
Everything,
you just don't give yourself all the credits. I've made up fake names for stuff where I had to do a bunch of stuff because I've seen some filmmakers where they have written by, directed by, produced by, edited by, like craft services by. Like, dude, don't
Yeah.
That doesn't look cool.
Or they have your
I would
same
say-
last name as it's your brother, your sister, your uncle,
Yeah.
everybody else in it.
There's one short I wanted to put like cast this, DP this, and then I was put everything else Paul Hibbard. Like the credit was the credit was actually going to say everything else Paul Hibbard.
That's awesome. So the proposal gives you credibility, right? In your own mind, I guess.
It did. It definitely in my own mind, and it was just this cool feeling about getting into other festivals. Though also what it kind of did though is it sort of satiated me to an extent where I was like, I don't really know what to do now, and I feel like I did a pretty good job in that. And so what I ended up doing after that was getting into stage. So I started directing plays instead. I've seen a lot of plays in my life, and my favorite thing when I was younger was to read stage productions. I'd read a lot of like Sam Shepard or a lot of like David Mamet stuff, and I love the way that they would use language. And sometimes if you use that much dialogue in film, it can be criticized as you're saying too much, you're telling and not showing, but on stage you can really get into that rhythmic back and forth, and I love that. So there was a couple years, I would say from about 2000, I was following the proposal during the festival run, which was about 2011, and from about 2012 then to 2014, I was doing stage work, directing stage, but then I was also keeping with my love of film through the film criticism side. So I was pretty much just I didn't get paid, but my work was a full-time film critic. Okay. Yeah, you talk about indie filmmaking being a dying industry. Wait, film criticism's even worse. Yeah. But so that was how I did that. I did a stage production in 2014 called Josh and Shawn. It was about this married couple, and an affair happened. And they were accusing each other of, she cheated through her point of view. He essentially forced her to. Through his point of view, she was a harlot, and she did this. And I showed it three different ways. I showed it through everybody's perspective, including the person who she had the affair with came on stage through their imagination, and showed it his way too. And that was really influenced by I don't know if you've ever seen Akira Kurosawa's Rashomon, where they showed like a murder through three different ways. So I love Rashomon. It's one of my favorite movies, and I love that way that he uses perspective. So I wrote it. I named the characters Josh and Shawn, and it's literally called Josh and Shawn because I wanted to sound like Rashomon, and I did this in.
You put that together.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna lie, that was the most fun I have ever had doing anything to the point where it was like I was like, I could do this forever. But what brought me back to film is just my love of film. It's so much. I know you said you've done stage, so you might have had different experience, but my experience doing stage was so much less bullshit. And
it is.
Yeah.
It absolutely is. You got a set time, you got it right, everybody knows their stuff, and you get automatic feedback.
Yeah.
And it just seems like everybody is there. It seems like you build that family quicker just because of everybody. I don't know. It's a different boat.
Well,
we talked about this.
Yeah, we talked about this. What I've said, because I've got a lot of theater friends, and I give them shit. I say, well, when I want to have fun, I'll do a play, because playing is fun. When I want to work, I'll make a film.
Yeah.
Because that's what I've always said. Wow, with a play, all you have to worry about is one medium-wide shot, and that's it.
Yep.
And that's all you got to do. Well, it only happens once, but nobody cares. The audience doesn't give a shit if you drop a line. No one's going to notice. No one's going to care.
I try not to respond to him when he speaks like this. So.
Just let it go.
I think I got an ally here, so.
Yeah. I mean, like, my love of film is intense, and it always brings me back, but my memories of stage are just incredible.
There's no other rush like it.
Yeah.
It's almost like going to the premiere
Yeah.
and finally seeing it every single night you do a performance.
Yes. And I acted in the play too. And
Oh, really?
It was just everything, and it was just a feeling that I just can't recreate. When I'm making a film, when I'm actually there and people are saying the lines and the action and the drama is happening, it's always just stress. It's always just stress about like losing time and losing.
Well, you got the guy clicking.
Yeah, yeah. But man, when it's happening on stage, it's just electrifying.
No, it is, and
I've done some stage, and I've directed a little and acted very little, and I enjoy it. But film is where my heart lies.
Yeah.
Mine too.
And apparently that's where you went back to, because there's no money in stage.
There is absolutely no money.
No money in film.
There's no money in film.
Like, there's no money.
All the money's going one way, and it's
But
out.
you know what you can't do with stage is it takes a lot of trucks and a lot of production to move that whole product. Once you get something on film, all I got to do is make a phone call, get on the internet, and I can sell a lot of it.
Yeah, that's true. And there's something about on stage when it's over, it's over. It's so exciting, but it's over. But then you have something like some of my films that have had 2-year film festival runs. That is just like exciting. You're just reliving it constantly, and so I went back to film because it's a little bit of a sad story, but I went back to film because my older brother passed away, and I wanted to do something to honor him, and I wanted to do something sweet. And at that point, and I've gone back to it now, where I don't really do sweet stuff. I tend to do like horror films that are maybe a little bit more violent, or dramas that are a little more cynical. But I was like, I want to do something sweet, and I decided to do something animation too. Oh. And so I did an animation called Tuck, and it's about a kid who is at a school, and this little girl who just lost her mother comes, and there's some mystic parts. He has these like magic pills that can make him look. He can make some look like how he wants other people to see him. He's able to. So it was this short film. It's online now, and that one I played at a few festivals, and everyone was really nice about it. I mean, I think it's good, and I think their response was that was good. But the fact that they knew the backstory, I don't think I was going to criticize that. Yeah. But regardless, that kind of got me back into it, and I was like, oh, I want to do a feature. So then I did my feature I was telling you guys about before we started rolling.
Yes.
It's called Tuesday Night and Wednesday Morning, and it's something that it was a feature, but it basically had the days of a short. It was very dialogue heavy. It was very much like the same setups and the same locations that you would have as a short. They were just we just expanded to like this huge dialogue. So sometimes I have like a little bit of like issues calling it a feature, because even though technically the runtime is over 70 minutes barely, and that makes it a feature, it just felt like we were making a short. And I acted in it too, and I was taking my stage experience and I wanted to act in it. And acting and directing a film is so stressful, and I was so pulled thin in it on it. It played at a few festivals. It played here, played at the Showcase. The response was good, but again, it's a local screening. It played at some other festivals. But it's a film that I look back at now, and I feel like I was pulled a little bit thin on it. And I feel like it was a learning experience back into film that I can't try to do. I think maybe my head was like getting a little bit big at that point, because I'd had 2 successful shorts in the last few years, and I did a stage production that was just magnetic, and I was like, I think I can do anything. And then I did this feature, and I was like, I'm happy with it, but I'm also going to learn some things from this too. And so I moved forward from that. I did a couple other shorts. I did one. It's a political like satire, not to get like.
Is that the Trump?
Yeah.
I saw
that one went to so many festivals.
I bet.
We were just screwing around. We just thought it was funny.
Yeah.
All we did, we thought it was funny that the president was saying witch hunt a lot, and I love Blair Witch Project. I got it. It's up here, but I got the Blair Witch symbol tattooed.
Blair Trump. What's it called?
The Blair Trump Project. So we did was just think Blair Witch and put Trump in there. We just thought it was funny that somebody was saying witch hunt. We're like, we're gonna make a little satire out of this. We did that in 4 hours, and it went to so many festivals. Like,
that's awesome.
I could not believe how many festivals it went to. Like, it was just like a joke. It was going to so many.
How long was it?
7 minutes long. It was super short. And it played, like, every single time a festival picked it, I was like, what are you guys doing? Like, do you not have other movies being sent to you? But it kept going, and that's when it played at the time. It was what I considered like the most exciting part of my career. Is it played in 2019 at the Salem. And this was at the very end of its run, so it ran through all through 2017, 2018. And in 2019, it played in Salem, Massachusetts, and it played at the 20-year anniversary of the Blair Witch Project. So what they did is they took Blair Witch Project, and they did Blair Trump project together, and they played it back and forth, and the whole cast to the Blair Witch Project was there, and then and afterwards I became I'm Facebook friends with Heather Donahue now, and so
you went up there for that one?
Yeah,
of course.
That was awesome. Then I did a short in 2018 called A Really Nice Guy, which I think I can call it a success. It made it a little bit too long. That was like my lesson to try to get run times down, and that was like 25 minutes for a short. That played at some pretty good festivals too. I did one in 2020 called Happiness. That was just a 15-minute dialogue piece. I only sent that to a few festivals. I was just like, this is just for fun. And then in 2021 is when I did what is essentially my biggest one now at this point. And it's a movie called Some Visitors. And that was the one, we can get into the nightmare of making that. But just to give you a summary of it, we shot it in 2021. And that one did a great festival run. It was the first festival run where I was getting people interested in making a feature with me, trying to connect me to financiers, which, a lot of that talk kind of comes and goes.
Right.
But it was the one that it was the short that really felt like it was getting. It's almost 30 minutes long, but it was the short that really felt like it was getting traction. And
is that the first time you worked with Jackie? Is that how you met that whole crew there?
Yeah. That's the first time I worked with Jackie. The cool thing about it was the rest of the people who were the killers in it. So the main intruder, this guy named Clayton, he did 5 movies with me at that point, including Blair Trump, and he did Really Nice Guy. And what was cool is a lot of the intruders were my people, but then we brought Jackie into that. So it was kind of this cool atmosphere where this new actor I never worked with was not only working with me, a new director, but it was my people were tormenting her, and that was part of the experience. But I loved working with Jackie. She's outstanding, and she's the lead in my new film too. So that was 2021, and I took a few years off, partially because it was so stressful making Some Visitors, partially because Some Visitors had such a festival run. It was almost full-time work, just going out to festivals and sending it off and doing pieces for festivals, and partially because I just hadn't found anything that I was really passionate about.
So I was before you get into your next project,
yeah,
which we can launch into here, because I know you got another feature that you kind of announced, and you just said Jackie was in it, which is awesome. We had Jackie in Red Night of Skies, and
yeah, she was great.
So we always talk about how you kind of grinded your teeth, you paid your dues. Did you feel that as you were coming up, you had to do these other shorts to make the mistakes in order to make the next project or have the confidence to make it?
Yeah, I think I did through a couple ways. One, for myself, I needed to prove to myself that I could do these things, and I needed to, I think, build the confidence to do films like Some Visitors, which is kind of an audacious swing, and that would be the kind of movie that I would not make when I was younger without paying those dues. And then also I needed confidence on set. I remember when I first started, I was just so scared to tell people what to do on a set. I was so scared to direct people, and it was this feeling that I'd never been on set. A lot of times when you work with people, they have been on so many. I remember one of my first films. This was my experience with some St. Louis crew, that they're more into the formalities of set procedures in life than they are about making good films. But I remember,
as long as we follow the rules on set.
Yeah, as long as they follow the rules. But also when they do show off things that they've seen on bigger sets. I always talk about St. Louis and the aughts to the 2010s, early 2010s, were people who went to Los Angeles and got coffee for people and then came back and told us they were all from Los Angeles and they know how sets work.
Is that where the phrase comes? I had a cup of coffee.
That probably is. But I remember this one guy, is when we were doing one of those first horror shorts, and we had a close-up insert shot of a real knife, and I pulled the knife out just to hand it to somebody so we can get the shot. And when I pulled it out, this guy, who I guess has been on a lot of sets, he wanted to show off. He'd been on sets. He screams at the top of his voice. He goes, "Live knife on set." He screams it to the point where it was incredibly dangerous because it like almost startled
Scared
me.
somebody.
I was like gonna cut myself.
I wasn't gonna stab
And I was
anybody
like-
until you said that.
I was like, why'd you do that? He goes, that's what you do. And I was like, there's 3 of us here, man. There's 3 of us. We're all right here. just tell us. But like, between like just being nervous about me not being on sets, and I think a lot of set bullies with their formalities, it took me a while to like realize that you need to build up the confidence, but it also took me like a while to like realize that the director is supposed to be the person on set who doesn't have the most experience. Like a lot of these other people, they go from film to film, and a lot of like, you know, DPs or, you know, sound, you know, boom operators, they're working on 15 films a year, and you're a director. What do you do? Like 1 a year if you're lucky? You usually do 1 every couple years. Every time I step back on, I'm like, how does this work?
Let me ask you this, Paul. You don't have a film background, do you? You didn't go to film school.
No, I did not know.
No, I didn't either.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, and you didn't either.
I didn't either.
You went in the military.
I did.
So here's what I found. I don't know if the director has the least amount of experience of everyone on set, but here's what I found a long time ago, right? If you want to be a film director, direct films.
Yeah.
Right? There is no path where you start out as a PA, then you become a grip, then you become a first AC. That's great. If that's what you want to do, that's awesome. If you want to work in G&E on big shows, cool. That's great. That's not going to make you a film director.
Yeah.
If you want to be a film director, you have to direct films. And I've met the set bullies throughout my time in doing this, and those are people, you know, that's great. If all they want to do is work as a grip, there's nothing wrong with that. You can make a good living working as a grip. But you're not going to be a film director by doing that. That is not the path to that. There's only one path to being a director, and that is directing.
Yeah. If you ever had those guys who are like, they might not necessarily say it, but you can just tell from their demeanor and their attitude that they think they could direct this better.
Yes.
I get that all the time.
Yes, I've met that, and a lot of DPs suffer from that director envy syndrome, I guess I like to call it.
Well, it takes a collaboration.
It does.
And everybody has to know their lane.
Yeah.
Right? And there's always going to be one person whose vision it is. It's either the money man.
Yeah.
Because you don't control that.
Yeah.
Right? Or it's going to be the director. Right? But it takes a great DP that can work with a director, a great first AD that can work with, right? And it takes everybody on that set. And I think the courage of, go ahead.
Well, the best cinematographers are the cinematographers who know that they're cinematographers and that's what they want to do. The worst cinematographers are the ones who think they should be the director.
Yeah.
It's like, well, actually, what we should do, that's not your fucking job.
Yeah.
Your job is to light it and shoot it. My job is to make the action happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, stay in your lane.
No, I can't agree with you more on
Yeah.
that. But I think it's encouraging to see, like when you say directors should direct, that you did it.
Yeah.
That you said, I want to do this, and come hell or high water, I'm making this piece of crap, because, right, by your self-admission, they
Yeah,
were
yeah.
not good. We got some crap. I've never made a film. I only acted in them and produced them, right?
Consider yourself lucky.
Right, I've never sat there, but I see the torment now, and I see the torment, and I see where I do have a professional, and I always go back to Kathleen, our wardrobe person. She was basically like, hey, Chris, I'm the professional here. I know my job. And she's a good friend. You just have to know your job, right? I know my job, and when you got good people like that, you can just direct.
Yeah.
And you can just do that because they are on many sets, but you have the confidence that they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And you just set it and forget it.
It happens. Like I've had it with DPs, and they'll try to like take things over, and I'll say to them, I'll be like, dude, this is my film and I got the vision. And then they'll get into this whole thing where it's like, where people just try to like break down the auteur theory, and they're just like, oh, you know, you're not into like collaboration on a film set. It's 100 different people giving ideas. And I had one guy who was like, he was like, you know, that like collaboration is the spice of life, and I'm like, I don't think that's a saying. I think you're mixing up other sayings. But I was like, there is an old saying that when a committee tries to create a horse, they create a camel instead. And I was like, this is what I was like. And these sets that you're talking about, don't talk to me like I don't know how this shit works. Like when I was younger, I didn't know how it worked, and even though I haven't been on as many sets as a lot of people, what I feel like I know, and this is from my criticism background, is film very well. And I listen to interviews with like famous filmmakers. And this is one thing that I've dealt with St. Louis Film Bullies. And this is what I say to like young filmmakers. I was like, they're going to tell you this isn't how you do it. But I promise you, how you're doing it is probably closer to how they do it, how real filmmakers make movies. Like this, I had one person, I won't say who, but one person's, when I was doing a bunch of takes on a film, and this was like later on in my career where I knew shit, and it wasn't at first where I would have like backed off. But he said to me, he was like, dude, this is your 6th take you're doing. He's like, were the first 5 just test takes? And I said,
Whoa.
to him, I was like, look, dude, I was like, David Fincher does 90 takes. And secondly, I've been on the showcase jury before, and I promise you, a lot of those movies could use a lot more takes. You know, he let it go after that. If you know, like, the film world outside of St. Louis, when people try to give you shit here, you can give it back to them.
But isn't it your set? If you want to take 1,000 takes, don't work on the movie.
Yeah.
Right? You're trying to get something that you see, and I get it. There's time, effort, energy on everybody's part, especially an independent film.
Yeah.
But there's a fine line between did we get it or not, where you don't want to lose the crew.
Yeah.
But 5 takes? Come on, man.
Yeah, and it's this idea, I think, that, you know, people are doing it for reduced pay or they're doing it for free.
No, they're in it for pay.
Yeah.
You're in it for the art or trying
Yeah.
to get it someplace, or you have to take it, or you owe an investor something. They're getting paid regardless of what it looks like at the end.
Yeah, and that's, I think, the mindset of, I could be making $800 on Dobbs commercial, so why don't you hurry up and get this?
I know. There must be a story behind this Dobbs commercial because it keeps coming. I go to Dobbs and I love Dobbs and it's fix free forever. I can tell you that.
Well,
in, up, out, whatever the hell.
I just pick Dobbs as like a random local business.
So I'll step back a minute. For many years I worked as a lab technician, and I used to say this all. And when I was making films, I used to say all the time, "This is my job. Film is my work. I don't want to be a grip. I don't want to be a grip on a tire commercial."
Yeah.
And I know exactly where you're coming from.
Yeah.
It's like that did not appeal to me. If I got to do some shit job I don't want to do to make my money, I'd rather just do lab work because it's easy and not have the stress of working at the low end of commercial work.
Yep. That's why I think I did dispatch for so long, is because I didn't want to do commercial work. I have this idea, this purity for film, that if I'm there, I want to make something. I want to make art. I want to make, what other people are making. That's why I never moved to Los Angeles or anything. So I was just I don't want to be on sets. I don't want to make movies. I hate being on sets. It's the worst thing in the world.
My name's Chris Mackey and I'm sitting here talking to 2 directors. Just want to make that very clear here.
Well, that's what I've often said
No.
is I love being on a film set if it's my set.
Oh, yeah?
I hate being on a film set if it's someone else's because it's like, fuck, I should be up there doing that.
Yeah.
It's kind of like if you're in a band and you go see a band and you're like, and it's like, I should be on stage, right?
Stage actors sit out in the audience and they're just like, I know it, man. Did you see that spin? He's got diction. Man, he's just rocking it.
But it's like whenever I am on someone else's set, I know my role. I don't come in, I've done this, I've done that.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I'm here to do whatever. What do you need me to do?
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's what you do.
And there are people like that, and those people I get along with.
Stanzi is very much like that. Stanzi is an incredibly accomplished filmmaker.
I bet you. And I know him, but not from being on set. But Jackie's the same way.
She comes prepared to act.
Yeah.
Right? And she brings her stuff and she's ready to go and she's ready to take direction and she's ready to perform for you to make your movie as best as it can.
Yeah.
No ego, no bullshit, just there to work.
Right.
And,
And she knows film, and that helps too.
Yeah.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
You can draw from that. But taking a step back, we all have to agree, there is a time for collaboration.
Yeah.
Yes.
In the pre-meetings, and you have meetings with your DP, going over stuff, shot list. There is time for that, not at the time when you're shooting.
Yeah. No.
Right? So let's not say we don't collaborate on film sets. We do.
Here's what I say. I don't know if you think the same way. I say, look, we do it my way first. Once that's done, open up the floor to suggestion.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'll do that too. And there are It's not collaboration that I was necessarily trying to shit on. It's more creative control that they're calling collaboration. It's
Very
more
fair,
like
very fair.
it's more like because I mean there are so many things that like a DP will do, and I'll be like, dude, just do it. You do whatever you want, whatever you think about this. There's so many times when sometimes in my films I'll have like an editor do it with me, and I'll be watching it and I'll be like, I don't know what to do. I'm just gonna leave the room and you do it, and let me come back and see what you did. And so there are times where I will give it up for that. I think what I'm more speaking to it is a lot of people use the term collaboration as an abusive way of trying to hijack a film and make it their own film. And
sometimes it's the most mistimed places.
Yeah.
In the middle of a scene, in the middle of a shot, in the middle of something else, where now they're gonna go, oh, by the way, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Or now I'm gonna interject.
Yeah.
No, I would agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
So
No, it's frustrating.
that's cool.
But yeah, no. Some of this just was a nightmare, but the festival one was incredible. I loved it so much. It was so hard to make here in St. Louis. You've seen it, right?
Yeah.
Did you watch
I have
it?
not.
I'm just gonna tell you what happens. in
Yeah,
it.
absolutely.
I wrote this script, and it's essentially it's been out, so everybody's had time to see it. It's about a woman who's home alone. She just lost a baby, and her child recently died, and there's a knock on the door, and it's these intruders trying to get in. The radio has made it clear that this is a place where intruders have been hitting, home invasions have been hitting recently. It's this situation where they're tormenting her, and I'm wanting the viewers to really feel for her, really want her to fight back, because they're using language that feels sort of like maybe like gaslighting. Like this one part where Clayton, the main villain, he was like, after he's clearly fucking with her, he's like, dude, I'm just messing with you. It's not that big of a deal. It's very just passive aggressive stuff like that. Stuff that hopefully gets under people's skin. And then all the intruders get in there, and it turns into this big brawl, this big fight, and she's tougher than they expect. It's more of a fight. I'm hoping that the red herring as to why she's so tough is because she just lost a kid and she doesn't have anything to worry about. And she just fucks these people up. She gets fucked up too. She gets stabbed in the eye. She gets her nose broken. It is pretty violent. It's
I was thinking special effect. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Practical effect. How'd you do that?
Logan, I don't know if you know Logan Cole. He did the effects on it, and he did some really awesome stuff. When she gets stabbed in the eye, I wanted like Fulci inspired eye stabbing going on there. And then after this whole situation where hopefully, if I pulled it off, and from the response sounds like it did, where people are rooting for her and you feel like she's won, then we see these flashbacks that she is actually a home invader too. And she got there first, and she not only killed the whole family, but she killed the baby. And the audience has been rooting for a baby killer the whole time. So it was this thing where I was like, I don't want to make a movie that's just storytelling. I want to make a movie that is viewer culpability. I want to mess with people so much. One of my favorite movies of all time is Carrie. And what I love about Carrie, I think a lot of people don't watch Carrie the same way I do. What I love about Carrie, it's this girl being bullied, and you want her to fight back. You want her to kill everybody because you can tell she has these powers, and you want her to kill everybody until the prom happens. And then when the prom happens, the people who have dropped the bucket on her, they're gone. John Travolta and Nancy Allen, who play those characters, they're gone. Everybody in that gym feels terrible for her. Everybody's like, you've gone too far. And I've watched Carrie so many times. I am always like, when that scene happens, I'm like, don't do it. Don't do it. Everyone's on your side. And then she does it, and I feel guilty because I wanted her to do it the whole movie. And so I wanted to recreate.
Well, you wanted to get the people that aren't there anymore.
Yeah, I want to get them.
John Carpenter's
which eventually she goes and kills them by crashing their car. But I really like just that feeling of viewer culpability I wanted. And
so I've never seen it.
Okay.
Is there a part in the movie where the audience all knows at the exact same time, and there's an audible reaction?
Yeah, it's a scene after she's killed everybody. She goes to a chair, and her face is just fucked up. Jackie's face is just really fucked up because her eye got stabbed, and she takes a picture of the baby, and she's staring at the baby, and then she looks up at a photo, and there's a push-in of a family in the photo, and she's not in it. in that moment.
And people just go,
yeah.
you bastard! You got us!
It's like a slow reaction, though, because we start a little bit further and we push in, and people are like putting it together as it's getting closer. And I think even after you see it, some people haven't fully put it together until we go to the flashbacks, and then you see the real mom is wearing what she's wearing. And
unfortunately, I guessed the ending before I got to that point.
You guessed
did
the
you?
twist?
Okay.
Yeah, I'm like, I bet Jackie's actually a bad person.
You know, I feel like in St. Louis, I'm at a little disadvantage because everybody knows that she usually plays psychopaths. So,
Well, I mean, I wasn't thinking Jackie. I was thinking of this character.
Yeah.
It just kind of like, wait a minute. There's going to be some bullshit.
This is too clean. This is too something.
Yeah.
Something else. There's got to be a twist here.
I was super paranoid that was obvious because when you watch the second time, it's really obvious. Like she doesn't like. First of all, the wedding ring in the jersey doesn't fit her, and then secondly, it's things like she doesn't know. Like Clayton asks her where a sculpture in her house is from. She doesn't know the answer. It's all these like little things that the whole time watching, I'm like, this is obvious. But honestly, until talking to you, I've never had anybody say that they guessed it. So
I think it was the sculpture that tipped it off for me.
Yeah.
But I will say this: I've watched a lot of fucking movies.
Yeah.
And nothing pisses me off more when someone says, "Oh, you're gonna love the twist in this movie." Like you just fucking ruined it for me because now I'm gonna figure it out.
Right.
saying there's a twist is
Yeah.
No, and then you're looking for it the
Yeah.
entire time, and you're not even watching the movie.
So
You're just,
for most normal people, they didn't see it coming, but I'm an asshole and I've just seen a lot of movies.
You gotta
so
figure it out,
I'm thinking, oh, wait a second. So
Yeah.
No, I think it's great, and I think that's the filmmaker sitting in the back, listening to the whispers,
Yeah,
just seeing if
Yeah.
it's spreading. That's got to be a thrill for you sitting back because it was such a good short. Was it short, right?
Yeah, it's about 30 minutes long. Some festivals called it a feature and some called it a short. I don't know.
Hey, Chris, what is the time on a feature?
man, I hope you were not a judge in 2016
No, I was not.
because we've had this other filmmaker Nathan Creamy on the show a couple times now. He's a really good dude.
He's a great dude.
Anyway, our feature 35 days. This was 2016. There were 3 features in the showcase, and they had the awards set up. Movies 20 minutes and under, movies 21 minutes and up.
Yeah, that's how they
and
have it,
Nathan's 21-minute film won, and I was like, man, I would not have given a shit if one of the other 2 features would have beaten us. But goddamn, it really sucks to lose out to a short.
Yeah, and even if they set that, you know, Chris or whoever sets that barrier, I think it should also be up to the judges to be like, because when I was a judge on there, if a movie was 25 minutes long, I would hold it against it. So as a judge, I wasn't saying that like, you know, I looked at a 90-minute movie, and I looked at a 25-minute movie, and I wasn't being like, oh, they're both called features. In my mind, I'm like, if you can keep it this
Going
up,
for 90? Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, which has a lot more to it.
so that I don't know who the judges were back then.
But I've had a lot of.
Did you ask Wyatt why he's usually a judge? He
No. It was fun because this podcast has allowed us to meet these people, find out how cool is hell, you know. And he's just like, oh man, and he goes, by the way, it went on to do great things, you know. And I was just like, good success for you.
Yeah.
We're gonna remaster ours and get it out there,
Now,
buddy.
the St. Louis film critics have been no real fan of any of my stuff.
Yeah. I was thinking that because I mentioned earlier I was into criticism, but I've never reviewed one of yours.
That's okay.
I actually haven't reviewed really any local films. Most of the stuff I review is just stuff my site gives me. But so you've had some rough experiences with film critics.
You can put a review together for Red Night when you watch it in your basement.
Okay, yeah.
If you want.
Well,
I usually do that when it gets closer to the festival to promote it. I'll do like write-ups for everything. Yeah.
Yeah, locally, people have not been kind. I mean, we've won, like, you know, best costumes and audience choice.
More than once.
Which every director wants to take that home.
Yeah.
We've done okay outside of St. Louis, but locally, well.
No, that's
anyway.
why we're excited. Red Night's gotten a few festivals, so we're starting that run now. Getting outside, and that's what I was going to ask you. Has your whole experience really been, except for a couple of them that have gotten, like the Salem one, has your whole experience been St. Louis?
No,
Cast, crew, world?
in terms of like my cast and crew, it's a mix. I use a lot of like out of towners to do post work.
Okay.
My composer's in L.A. and he does some work. She's actually done some pretty big films too. My FX people, they're out in L.A. too. So
Okay.
I just do like a mix where I'll use like local people usually for photography, and then I'll use other people for post work. But in terms of like the success of films,
I mean, you're showing here, is trying to get it out and blossom from here, from your
Yeah.
hub and spoke kind of.
I've had so much more success outside of St. Louis, like legitimate, like fucking success in like St. Louis. I'm like, I can't win in this city. It's almost just like a joke now, where it doesn't even really matter anymore.
We've talked about this.
Yeah, it's a pain in the ass, and you know, it starts from like the beginning. So, you know, some visitors, when it comes to the baby kill scene, that was a fucking nightmare trying to get that film made, because I'm not sure exactly what happened, because it was kind of a hot.
Wait, is this the suck that somebody mentioned
Yeah,
in your Facebook post?
this is
I knew we'd get to it. I would not even ask it. Look at you
Yeah.
even went there.
Well, because it kind of like leads to the next chapter of my life, but
Tell as much or as little as you want.
I'll tell. I'll probably not name names, but it was a situation where I don't know what exactly happened on their end, but the first draft of my script I wrote, it doesn't end in a baby kill. It just ends. It ends with her murdering the family, which includes like kids who are like 9 or 10 years old, and you don't see it. You just go into a room and you realize everyone's dead. And I was like, this isn't good enough. Like this is just a fucking movie. I was just like, I need something to make people feel sick. And so that's when I changed it to the baby situation. And I watched Mother. You've seen Darren Aronofsky's Mother before?
No.
It was a movie where they kill a baby in it, and I remember how I felt watching it, and I was like, oh shit. And I was also like, oh, you can do that? And I was like, well, if you can do it, I can do it too. and so I changed to that.
Don't kill babies, kids.
Yeah, don't do it in real life. I sent the second draft out to everybody, and this was months and months beforehand, and I don't know what happened. I don't know if they just waited till last minute to read any of the drafts, or if they just waited last minute to read the second draft. But 2 days before we are shooting, and when you're a director, you are so just nervous and scared, and
Yep.
this Airbnb that cost me like $2,500, and we have to shoot there. And right before I got a call 2 days beforehand saying that, you know, crew members, gaffers and grips are having problems with the baby kill situation.
Wow.
And I was like, I don't know what to say. Can I fucking get over it? I don't know. And they were like, one of them was like, well, what happens if like somebody watches this and they actually go and do it? And I was like, what are you, fucking Tipper Gore? And I was like, what the, shut up. And I was like, just, I mean, like, whatever. And then so I was like trying to appease them, and I was like, and I did that thing that directors always do when they know that they're just pandering to someone's idea, and I'm like, well, we'll do it your way, and then we'll do it my way, and we'll decide which one works together in post. And when it's obvious you're gonna fucking do it my way, and they didn't fall for that, and they quit. They were like, if you don't take that out, we're gonna quit. This is St. Louis, and so I was like, well, I'm not gonna take it out, and they quit on me, and it was just like 2 days of just mayhem trying to find someone else to fill the gap, and my DP was like, I can't do this without a gaffer.
Oh my gosh.
And it was nuts, but and got us some of Eric's people, and it turned out to be okay at the end, but it also made the set just a little more chaotic than it had to be. People working together for the first time, and it was just like this huge pain in the ass, and it just made like making the movie not as fun as it should have been.
Right, you should have rolled into it.
Yeah.
Everybody kind of on the same page, and you
Yeah.
ended up having.
It was frustrating, but the validate, even after I made it, I looked back so angrily at the movie, and it was also that feeling where you're just like, I don't know what I made, I don't know how good what I made was, but I remember one of them, I was saying to them, I was like, you know, this isn't unprecedented what's happening, because as they were saying, they're like, no movie goes here, blah, blah, you're crossing a line, and I was like, it's not unprecedented. I was like naming movies. Of course, I don't fucking watch movies, so I don't know what these movies are, but one of them I was watching was this movie called Climax, which is by this really controversial French horror director named Gaspar Noé, and it was his movie that he made like 2 years before Some Visitors, and I was like, they did it in Climax, and everyone's like, I don't know what that is, blah, blah. And so it was so frustrating, but then the ultimate like validation was we did this movie in the spring of 2021. We got done in the winter, and it was that feeling that's like, okay, it's done, but I want to hit these specific festivals that are bigger festivals, and they don't play until like 4 months. So it was like that period where your movie's done, but the festivals you're aiming for don't play for a while. But the first one was Panic Fest in Kansas City, which is a festival I absolutely love. And they, it was the first one I went for, and they accepted it. And then not only did they accept it, but they put it on a double bill with Gaspar Noé's new movie. So he had a new movie that came out called Lux Eterna, which is a masterpiece, and they played it on a double bill, and it was like a feeling of not only being accepted into a pretty huge horror festival, but how they booked me too. When that happened, that was that feeling like I stuck to my guns and I won. So
no, that's yeah. Well, you're usually right. You know, your feelings, your gut feelings, your intuitions, whatever you want to call them. I think you're the same way, Greg. Usually, it's the call you have to make is usually right.
Yeah,
I agree. I had a similar situation, and it was something much more innocent than killing a baby, and I had. It was.
No, I put killing the baby up there as pretty bad.
Yeah.
So,
but let's get real. Not actually killing a baby.
No,
babies were harmed during the
No,
making
we
of the film.
disclaim that. Don't kill babies, kids.
The baby actor was one of the actresses' kid, and there's like videos of me like carrying the baby around and playing with the baby.
Yeah, all you have to do is have whatever behind the scenes reel.
What I was saying.
Yeah.
So I had a similar situation, and people were going to revolt if I wanted to do something my way, and unlike you, I caved.
Oh well, is there? Do you know what it was, or can you say what it is?
It was a 48-hour film of all
Stay
things.
tuned for episode 40.
People are pretentious about that.
And it was basically a movie about two brothers making some cheesy, shitty exploitation film, and we just needed a filler background scene, and it was because it was like nuns versus Nazis. It's actually not a bad.
Is that the Biondo brothers?
The Biondo brothers. It's not a bad little short film.
Yeah.
But I said, okay, well, we need like the background people to be doing something, so let's just have someone riding a zombie like a horse and bash him in the head with a shovel.
Yeah.
Just in the background, and people were throwing a fit. Like, oh, we can't do that. And finally, I was like, all right, fuck it. We'll come up with something else. Because it was a whole ordeal. So I can only imagine the horse shit you went through 2 days before the shoot.
Yeah, it was frustrating, and I can't believe they revolted. But I mean, I don't know if that's just a thing here or what, but I don't know why people are just like so like.
See, they forget about going, it's just a paycheck at that point,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Where's all these people just collecting paychecks?
Yeah.
Now they care about the project?
Yeah, now they're like worried about putting something else gonna whatever. I don't know. It was like really frustrating, and that's that kind of thing too, where it just really helps if people you work with know film, because what they think of one thing is because all they watch is like fucking TV and something like that. So if they actually like watch like films, they would see that like the places you're trying to go aren't quite as unprecedented as I think they are.
Yeah, and I saw the movie. It's very tastefully done.
Yeah, we tastefully killed that.
you could do that tastefully.
Yeah, tastefully killed that.
You
baby.
nailed it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. But it's not, it's graphic, but it's not like it really is.
The actual process of it too, of actually killing the baby, is what you see is Jackie's hand goes on the baby's head and snaps the neck. So how he did it was, we did that fake space where, we're throwing punches or whatever. If you film it from behind, you can fake it. It looks like contact. And we did that where Jackie went to the baby's face right here, but was like this far away, and all she did was just turn her hand like this several times. The baby's got no idea what's going on. It was just like watching the hand go back and forth. And then then my FX guy said to take the baby and then just turn like this, and he's like, I'll put it together in post. So that's what I did. So I take this baby and I'm like turning, and the baby's laughing while I do it. And then I picked the baby up and like held it, and it was just like the baby has no idea and thought it was just like this fun little ride. And then it comes together in post, and then you see it snap.
Yeah, of course. I mean, yeah.
I love the shock value.
Yeah.
I love it. Remember we talked about that when we were building kind of our platform and our what we were going to try to do is you need that shock thing. What's that movie where the guy gets his teeth busted out on the curb? American
History X.
Exactly, right? I'm still talking about that scene, right?
Yeah.
That hurt my teeth.
Yeah.
I don't care who you are or what you did.
Yeah.
That kick to the head with doing that thing,
Yeah.
that hurt.
Yeah.
But I remember it. that's a scene, and you took the risk.
Yeah.
I think it paid off.
Yeah, I think so too, and especially if you're rooting for her too. It's like, oh, you're rooting for the wrong person.
Besides the fact, okay, yes,
Yeah.
it's violent. It shouldn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
It shouldn't. But that's the part of the movie that you're trying to get across in the entire thing. If that doesn't happen, it doesn't make her as evil.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
So talk about. Yeah, I was just gonna say, let's wrap up with what you got going on coming up.
Yeah. So I have a feature. Oh, one quick thing also.
Yeah, no, your time, buddy.
Is I started my own film festival with some visitors because it was just such a hard experience making it. I was like, I wanted to play under my terms, so I created my own film festival for it called Hysteria Fest, which first played in 2022, and it was really just supposed to be for me to play my own movie. But then when I was doing the festival run, I kept like meeting these filmmakers and watching these movies, and I would just be like, hey, can your movie play with mine? Can your movie play with mine?
Sweet.
And then at the end, we realized we had a festival. We played at Arcaden, which is a theater over in Beeville Mill, which is kind of close. And we played there. It sold out, and then I was like, oh, let's do it again next year. So we did it this year too. This year, just a festival, no movie. I was just a curator. And so we're doing that again this year in June. So Hysteria Fest is just like this accidental horror festival that I created because of the response of some visitors. And I wanted a protective way to play it here in St. Louis.
Did we get an actor? We submit?
I don't know.
You guys submitted.
We submitted, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Are you going to announce anything here today, Paul?
Guess we'll find out.
You'll find out.
Sorry,
but
buddy.
No, you'll find out. But just for any like local, if it's a St. Louis movie, there's a really good chance. I have a bunch of films right now that are sitting there. I haven't had a chance to watch them, but I know they're St. Louis filmmakers. We're trying to get as many in as we can because I want to make a change in the St. Louis film scene, and I want to make a place where people come out and they meet each other, and it's a situation where, I just want like an atmosphere that protects filmmakers and they don't have to deal with the shit that we deal with. So it's a situation that we're going to get as many St. Louis films in as we can. But so I started that, and then I'm making this new film. We just announced recently. It's a feature film. It's called Ripper to Shreds.
Okay.
Which I know has a very aggressive title, but it's actually not a horror movie. It's a film about a filmmaker, and the filmmaker is played by Jackie. And this is probably like the ultimate indie film sucks film because it is a movie about a filmmaker who is just so discouraged with filmmaking, and she's so discouraged with the direction of film, and she hates her new film. She hates like bombarded over by crew and producers, and at the same time she has a relationship with a boyfriend that she loves, but her sex life is not very fulfilling, and so what she does is to get a break from both the sort of like sanitized state of filmmaking today and from this relationship that she's not sexually satisfied in, is she convinces him to open the relationship so she can explore the world of kink. So that is the story, and it's a film that we're essentially trying to do with sex what we did with violence in some visitors.
Okay.
We're gonna use it. We're gonna make it. We're gonna make it like very like in your face. It's not gonna be like necessarily salacious, but it's going to be a very like honest film about if we can pull it off. It's gonna be an honest film about filmmaking today, sex today, and about living in a social media world and how that affects both of those. Everything.
Nice.
And my experience being a film, lover and critic and historian, the waves of what's happening in this any sort of like sexual revolution or sexual repression will affect filmmaking. So in the 60s and early 70s, you were getting a lot more like sexually open free love films. But then in the 80s, where things got more repressed, you got a lot more repression in films. And I feel like I think there's a sexual repression going on through society, and I think it's really affecting film. There's a critic who said that films today are like Instagram, where everybody looks really good, but nobody's fucking in them. And I feel like that's true. And so it's a film that has these two threads, but if we can pull it off, those two threads will rhyme with each other, and they will both kind of fit.
No, I'm excited to see Jackie in something outside of what she's known for, right? Getting a great reputation in the genre for, that Screamfest and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for that. Mm-hmm. So good kudos for you
Yeah,
for writing something that she's excited about getting in, that it sounds like it's got a lot of character and depth. And,
yeah. It does. It's a lot of like naturalism with the acting too. It's a situation where I'm just like, I'm trying to write things that don't always just sound rigid. And, you know, when I'm writing some visitors, everything they say has to carry a detail along, and I'm trying to write things that's more just like banter, more naturalism. And
I can hear like a French theme or something. You know, I just see this like kind of shot in the shadows,
I'm trying not to get too
black and white. I do. I just see this being kind of a, you know, one of those cult classic films where.
And she's going to be great in it. And then to really help with that too, her boyfriend is this local actor named Larry Claudin, who's more in that style of I guess more natural acting. He's got an improv, sketch comedy background, so he will also kind of be leading that direction.
Okay.
That the film goes in. So
man, and when do you think? Where are you at in the process?
We have it. We're in pre-production right now, and we're looking to shoot in April, May this year.
Yeah, you filmed it yourself, launching anything on this, or what are you doing?
Well, oh yeah, so we're going to. What we're saying is that the movie's going to happen no matter what, but we're going to launch an Indiegogo actually on my birthday, which is in a couple of weeks on February 7th. We're going to launch an Indiegogo, and I'll put it all over my socials. And if anybody can give any money, we would just really appreciate the burden of the film. It would help, you know, a lot of the actors and crew, they've already agreed to do the film at a very, very reduced rate, sometimes no rate. But you know, if anybody can donate, it at least helps me pay them a little bit more, so I don't feel terrible about that. So, but no matter what, the film's going to happen.
No, and when we see it, we'll push it along from our side.
Awesome.
And the timing of this, we'll make sure that we mention it again.
Sure.
We try to. Sometimes we mention, you know, what people got going on.
Yeah,
we had a nice run of people that were putting out films and different things. So we'll try to make sure we watch social media to try to pump some of the things you're doing as well with who we got. Our 101 subscribers. That's right, baby. Tell one person.
Hey,
each one gets $10.
$10.
Yeah,
that's all I'm saying too. Man, Paul, man, I really appreciate it, man. I never met you before.
Yeah,
it was great hearing your story and meeting you. Wish you all the success. You know, hopefully the St. Louis community became a little smaller today.
Hopefully, yeah.
So,
I really appreciate you guys having me on.
Oh, not a problem.
So we covered a lot today, Greg.
And we're looking forward. Hang on, we're looking forward to Hysteria Fest.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
And I want to say we need more festivals in St. Louis.
Yeah,
we absolutely need more festivals.
Yeah, and you know, it's technically a horror festival, but I'm telling anyone in St. Louis, if you do anything that's just remotely horror adjacent, anything transgressive, anything that pushes the envelope, if you send me something and it doesn't fit, I'll just be like, it doesn't fit, but I'll give you your money back. So like,
that's honest.
Yeah. That's beyond honest.
Yeah.
I've never had that happen at any festival.
Now, if you send me something that fits, but it sucks, you're not getting your money back.
What are the dates of the festival? And is it a weekend?
Yeah, it's going to be Thursday through a Sunday, and it's the last weekend of June. So I think it's the 26th or the 30th, but the last weekend of June we're playing it.
Great, man. That is completely awesome. So you'll have a film coming out probably by then?
Yeah.
Or already out?
It'll be in the can. My goal is to shoot it and then take 2 months of a break and work on the festival, and then when the festival's over, I'll get to post with the
because you're really not timing it out for Halloween.
No.
For that film.
Not for this.
Awesome. Awesome, man.
That is awesome.
We covered a lot tonight, Greg.
You know what else is awesome?
What's awesome?
When we talk about the highs, the lows, and the in-betweens of true independent filmmaking. On the Any Film Sucks podcast, brought to you by 88mm Productions. It's on whatever crap that people look at.
Find it. Tell one person. Listen to one episode.
Subscribe.
Like.
Whatever.
Exactly.
Send money.
Yes.
Send cocaine.
Go
whatever.
find Paul on IMDb, Facebook, and check out some of his stuff.
Yeah, Facebook, Instagram. Follow me everywhere, and I'll follow you back.
Awesome.
Good night.
Peace. Love you, Mom.
Indie film sucks. Indie film sucks. It's the Indie Film Sucks